The gospel for this Sunday is the story of the Samaritan Leper. This is the only person in all the New Testament to ever thank Jesus. Why? Why do United States homilists, preachers, teachers, and even Bible translators get this story so wrong? Luke chapter 17, verses 11 through 19. As he continued his journey to Jerusalem, he traveled through Samaria and Galilee. As he was entering a village, 10 lepers met him. They stood at a distance from him and raised their voice, saying, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." And when he saw them, he said, "Go show yourselves to the priests." As they were going, they were cleansed. And one of them, realizing he had been healed, returned, glorifying God in a loud voice. And he fell at the feet of Jesus and thanked him. He was a Samaritan. Jesus said in reply, 10 were cleansed, were they not? Where are the other 9? Has none but this foreigner returned to give glory to God? Then he said to him, "Stand up and go. Your loyalty has saved you." This Sunday's Gospel reading is often mistaken for being a story concerning expressing thanks. It is a story about 10 people, 9 Israelites, and a hated outsider with a polluting skin condition. All are healed, one gives thanks. Whatever the biological nature of the condition was, it almost definitely was not Hansen's disease. Perhaps it was what we would call psoriasis. To get a more detailed understanding of the so-called leprosy aspect of this story, I highly recommend that you watch the video presentation on biblical leprosy. I'm going to link that video at the end of this presentation. In the entire New Testament, only one person ever thanks Jesus, and he wasn't even considered Israelite. Let's read carefully one little problematic section of the gospel story. Here. Look carefully at the words. You don't have to know Greek to see things are problematic, especially when I include how the New American Bible Revised Edition translates this passage. See the difference at the end? To give glory to God or to give thanks to God? The green is incorrect. The NABRE has a disastrous translation of Luke chapter 17, verse 18. The Lucan Jesus was not asking, "Has none but this foreigner returned to give thanks to God?" Again, the old maxim is proven true. Every translator is a traitor. In their desire to make the text say, "Jesus is God! Jesus is God! Jesus is God!" the NABRE translators put words into the Lucan Jesus' mouth that don't match the Greek text.
Now, I want to play a little game here with somebody in the front row just for a second. You and I are you an American? We're both Americans. When we interact, if I said, what your first name? Vern, if I said, "Vern, that's a really nice looking jacket." As an American, your response? Thank you. In a Middle Eastern village, you just blew it big time. You do not say thank you. Thank you is the way you end an interaction. It means basically, we're done.
It might be shocking to understand that the Samaritan in this story, or any other person from any ancient circum-Mediterranean people, including Israelites, would never say thank you to God. While biblical people were very much indebted to God and grateful to God, to say thank you to God was equivalent to suicide. Instead, the Samaritan thanks Jesus, but he glorifies or honors God. The fourth gospel informs us of the important cultural background. Judeans, never properly translated Jews, have no dealings with Samaritans. The late scholar John Pilch says that this Samaritan was probably in the wrong place at the right time. Through Jesus' brokerage or mediation, he receives healing along with the 9 Israelites. This Samaritan is quite aware that he has a snowball's chance in hell of ever seeing Jesus again. This explains why he gave thanks to Jesus.
Writing to the Thessalonians, Paul begins by admitting how indebted he is to God for their positive response to his preaching. Traditionally, this section of Paul's letter is identified as a thanksgiving, but it would be quite preferable to drop that word, because in the Mediterranean world, you don't say thank you. To say thank you, it says, so long, it's been good to know you, get the hell out of my life, I don't need you anymore. You can never say that in a traditional culture. Look in the newest Greek dictionaries, it'll tell you it's a sense of, I owe you big time. I'm indebted to you. When I was in the Philippines, they used to laugh because every time they said thank you, they would laugh. Why? You know, we occupied them for 50 years and we taught them to say thank you. They don't say thank you in the Philippines. They have what is known as utang na loob. I owe you. I'm in your debt. Which is why corruption is so great. Because who can do you favors? The politicians. You have to repay them. I owe you. You're never sure you repaid them enough. So you keep repaying them and they can do you more favors, and that's why corruption grows. It's typical in many cultures of the world. In India, they don't even have, parts of India, they don't even have a word for thank you. If I get something, I deserved it. That's why I got it. So you'll notice that in the Gospels, the Samaritan leper cleansed by Jesus is the only one to return and thank him. I was in the wrong place at the right time, right place at the wrong time. I have a snowball's chance in hell of ever meeting this guy again. Thank you. So long, it's been good to know you. Lucky me. The other 9 would not dare say thank you because they were fellow Israelites. That could come back next week, same problem, and they'd have to come and see him. So the culturally appropriate understanding of the word translated as thank you is much obliged, or I'm in your debt. And Paul, in his letters, owes his success to God, to whom he is now indebted. He would never want to end that relationship.
In the ancient Mediterranean world of the Bible, thanks means we're donezo. Why would anyone want to say, we're donezo, God? So instead, the Samaritan praises God, the source of his healing, and returns to thank Jesus, something he would never do to God. Reading the text honestly, we see that Jesus is silent about the Samaritan's gratitude, or it being missing in the 9. Western homilists exploring this story are fond of focusing on gratitude or its lack. In doing so, they miss the point.
My wife and I were living in Beit Jala, and I was doing research, and my wife was there doing volunteer work. And we had gotten to know a family down the block, and after some months, the family invited us to dinner at their home. And all of you that know Middle Eastern culture know that that's a real honor. So we were to show up at dinner at the appropriate hour, and thinking to be nice, we went down to the flower market at the corner and bought a bouquet of flowers. Came to the house, knocked on the front door, and the father opened. The father did not speak English. And I handed him the flowers. And he slammed the door in my face. And I looked at my wife. What do we do now? And I could hear all this angry shouting in the house. Pretty soon the older son opened the door. He did speak English, and he said to me, "Why have you insulted my father?" And he closed the door again. I didn't know what to do. Pretty soon the door opened again, and here came the father. This is a Muslim family. And the father had in his hands his prayer beads. You often hear Westerners call those worry beads. They are prayer beads to a devout Muslim. And he handed me those prayer beads as a gift. Now, being an American, Vern, what did I say? Oops. I saw the older son roll his eyes and go, oh, man. We got in and we had dinner, but we were never invited back to that house.
Anthropologists inform us that mainstream United States people, the most individualistic culture ever, are very different than Jesus and his contemporaries. At every turn in our social lives, we work to keep social obligations at a minimum. Our American thank you does not include or imply any obligation of social reciprocation, even though it does indeed express gratitude. As far as personal obligations to others go, we American individualists work very hard to avoid them. We avoid getting involved, but even when we do, we would rather do it anonymously, like pooling donations and care for disaster relief. In corporate America, this is seen also in the anonymity and obligation freedom of secret Santas, birthdays, and wedding showers. Both Western donors and Western recipients remain free of excessive obligations. While a Western person hurting may gratefully receive benefits from some charity organization, they experience no obligations to the charity or its contributors. How different that is from circum-Mediterranean cultures, like the biblical world. This makes United States people and Christians here an anomaly among world cultures. For beyond the United States, almost everywhere else in the world, people see human relations devoid of obligation as being insignificant. For most people on earth today, including our New Testament ancestors in the faith 2,000 years ago, it would be nonsense to give anonymously. It would be meaningless. A gift without inconveniencing the donor holds little to no significance for the recipient. And for the biblical world, folks, there is no love without group love and ongoing, lifelong reciprocal giving.